Are you learning Blender by drowning in endless tutorials and shortcut keys? Well, I hate to break it to you, but you might just be learning Blender wrong. But it's not your fault. So I've finally taken the jump and started learning Blender. And as someone who has been completely frustrated trying to learn Blender, frustrated by the sheer amount of tutorials, the lack of quality of some, and straight up tutorials that feed you bad information, I wanted to share with you all the things I've discovered in the past few weeks that have helped me kind of wrap my brain around Blender. So let's delete that default cube. Let's go. And one of the biggest friction points I've encountered, and I know I'm not alone here in this, is you have these tutorials that just inundate you with what seems like an endless onslaught of hotkeys. I mean, it's to the point where some tutorial creators sound like they're auctioneers auctioning off hotkeys. And this whole time you're just trying to follow along and someone's just spouting these shortcut keys. It's overwhelming. You're just sitting there thinking, I just want to delete this dang cube, not memorize the Konami code. Up, down, The big problem with this is shortcut keys don't teach you the why behind Blender's functionality. They don't show you which menu the function lives in or how to actually navigate the software. Now, I don't want to feel like I'm showing off, but I've been learning Japanese for the past 6 months. Boku wa totemo kakkoi desu ne. And I felt like learning Blender is a lot like learning a new language. And if you were learning a new language, you wouldn't start by memorizing a full dictionary at the get-go. And I feel like a lot of Blender tutorials kind of expect you to know and memorize all of these shortcuts, even if you're just trying to complete a single video. But shortcuts are like phrases. You know, you want to learn how to say, "Where's the bathroom?" or "How much does Blender cost?" They're great, but without understanding the grammar or the workflow principles, you can say sayonara to making any sense of Blender. For example, Cinema 4D, it's all about hierarchies. That's the grammar rule you need to understand about C4D. Photoshop, well, you need to understand it's layer-based. ZBrush, gotta understand subtools, which I really still don't. And Blender, well, you need to understand its UI vocabulary and workflow principles first. The great thing is Blender actually makes it super easy to learn the shortcut keys because in every single menu item, it shows the shortcut key right next to that option. So you can learn them naturally over time. And another cool thing is you can right click anywhere in the UI and you can pull up the documentation and dive deeper into any topic. I mean, let's be real here. 3D is already hard enough with tons of things to remember and to learn and understand. You do not need to be overwhelmed by hotkeys on top of it. It's like the old saying goes, give a 3D artist a shortcut key, feed them for a day. Teach a 3D artist where the tool is in the UI, and you feed them for life, or something like that. Now, if you've been enjoying this video so far, and why wouldn't you? It's free forever. But if you are enjoying it and you want to learn Blender the right way without all the unnecessary complexity, be sure to check out our brand new course, Blender for 3D Artists, taught by the incredibly talented Elijah Sheffield. You can find out more, the link's in the description. All right, so let's talk about moving stuff around. One of my biggest gripes about the whole hotkeys thing is that a lot of Blender tutorials insist on teaching you the precise movements with shortcuts. So you got the gizmo and you want to move something in a certain direction. You got G for grab, Z for axis, and type 5 for the exact precise units you want to move it. But let's be real, most artists just eyeball it. Like, I think it looks good there. And that is why when I first started using Blender, I used the heck out of the gizmo. It's what it's for. You can move, scale, and rotate all at the same time and without feeling like your keyboard is a piano recital. There is no other 3D DCC out there that requires so many hotkeys just to manipulate a dang object. Now look, I get it, shortcuts can make you faster once you've mastered the basics, but if you're just starting out, the gizmo's your best friend. It simplifies everything and lets you focus on learning instead of memorizing. And that brings me to the next big common mistake that anyone who's learning Blender, or really any 3D software, will most likely fall into. Choice overload. Now, I want you to remember your first time ever opening Blender. Ah, yes, there it is, Cubey, the default cube, surrounded by an endless abyss of menus, panels, and tools. It's like stepping into a cockpit of a spaceship, a free spaceship. Should you model, animate, wire up some geometry nodes, dive into grease pencil? How hard could it be to learn everything Blender offers all at once? Spoiler alert, very hard. That's called choice overload. Instead of diving into everything, figure out what excites you and get even a little bit philosophical. Ask yourself, what kind of artist do you want to be? Now, to answer that question, you first need to ask yourself 3 questions before that.
Who approacheth the bridge of death must answer me these questions 3.
Number 1, what excites you about 3D? Do you love creating cinematic environments, sculpting creatures, or rigging characters? If you said weight painting, you should get your head checked. Question number 2 is, what do you enjoy making? If realistic props bore you, maybe stylized characters are your thing. It's important to find out the things you don't like because that also helps you realize what you do like. And question number 3, what tools interest you the most? If lighting and rendering make you happy, then start there. While Blender's versatility is its greatest strength, it's also what happens to make it pretty daunting. And if you try to learn everything all at once without a clear focus or direction, you're going to become quickly overwhelmed, and you're going to turn into that confused John Travolta in Pulp Fiction meme. So be intentional about your learning path. For example, I have a friend who switched from Cinema 4D to Blender because she wanted to utilize Blender's pretty powerful sculpting, texturing, and rigging tools. And she went into Blender with a clear purpose to create and animate her little cool characters, right? So that goal allowed her to focus on a specific set of disciplines.
But what I do have are a very particular set of skills.
And most importantly, helped her actually ask the right questions.
Do you want to go for a walk?
While blocking out all the rest of the noise that's out there on the internet. And I know you probably are like me back in the day that you just wanted to just bang out and watch every single tutorial that is out there. But here's the problem with aimless learning like that. You're going to end up staring into the void of Blender's infinite possibilities, or worse, into the donut hole of despair. There are so many people that make that donut and then don't know what to do next. And all the while, you're just staring into the emptiness of that donut hole, and then you start to see the emptiness within your soul. Whew, that got dark. That's why having a purpose beyond sugary pastries is essential. A clear direction lets you block out distractions and allows you to focus on what really matters to you as an artist. One of the most important steps in learning Blender or any software is to actually make something. Watching tutorial after tutorial after tutorial can make you feel productive, but if you're not actually applying what you just learned, you're just consuming. Think of it this way. Tutorials are like a cooking show. Sure, you can watch it and they can teach you how to make an amazing meal, but at some point you need to stop watching it and actually get your butt into the kitchen. Otherwise, you're just staring at someone else's food while your stomach is grumbling uncontrollably. But it is important to start small. Create a simple project that excites you, say a simple basic character, small environment, or even go with like a low poly coffee cup. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be yours. You have to have some sense of ownership and you have to enjoy what the heck you're doing too, right? By creating instead of doing all the consuming, you're actually gonna do some important work. You're gonna actually discover which tools and techniques you need to focus on and learn more efficiently. So go ahead, close YouTube, or wait, close it after this video, okay? And then get to start creating. Now, before diving into a new software, you need to make sure you understand your why. Arguing over which software or renderer is better is super dumb and super pointless. What matters is which tool is best for the type of work you want to create. And the only person that can answer that question is you. So for example, if you're really into motion graphic-y style animations like the ones created in Cinema 4D, in that case, Blender might not be your best choice. Sure, Blender's geometry nodes can create similar effects, but they're way more complicated to set up since, let's be real, motion graphics weren't ever Blender's original focus. Likewise, if you need to create some super complex and super realistic dynamic simulations, then Houdini is the king of that domain. It's all about using the right tool for the right job. Blender has strengths in many areas. I mean, the animation, the modeling, the sculpting, Grease Pencil, super dope, and its real-time renderer Eevee is becoming increasingly impressive. But the key is choosing software that best aligns with your creative goals. After all, Blender's just a tool. Your creativity is really the superpower in this equation. Learning any 3D software can feel overwhelming at first. Trust me, I'm in the middle of it with Blender myself and Unreal Engine, but it's important that we both remember here, we're both on the same side here. You don't need to learn everything all at once. And you definitely don't need to memorize every single hotkey from day one. Focus on understanding the fundamentals, take it one step at a time, and most importantly, have fun and go into it with a clear goal in mind. I hope you found this video helpful and maybe even a little entertaining. Now, I'd be super interested to know, so be sure to leave a comment who out there is learning Blender. And if you are, what aspects of Blender you're most excited to learn. And if you want to share a few words of encouragement, because man, my brain hurts. So maybe if you want to share your own Blender war stories. And I want to hear about your first encounter with Cubey, the default cube. Did you keep it? Did you delete it? Or did you turn it into a donut against its will? And hey, we all know Blender's free, and so is being kind. So hit Control-Alt-L to smash the like button, Shift-S to subscribe for more 3D tips, and Control-Alt-Delete to ring the notification bell so you'll never miss an upload. Thank you so much for watching, and hope to see you in another video real soon, if my brain doesn't ooze out of my head memorizing all these dang hotkeys.